session. Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to our Science and Technology minor program session. So I would like to welcome Ada Carpenter, our speaker for today. But before we start, I'm just going to briefly introduce how the session will go. So first we will have our presentation, which will take 30 to 45 minutes, and then after the presentation, we can have this Q&A session. And then right now, please look at the Zoom chat. I will be sending a link to you guys where you can type all your questions regarding the presentation. Just wait a second. So here you go. If everyone can check their Zoom chat right now, you can see a link. And this is Slido where you can put all your questions in during the presentation. And then I'm going to ask your moderator, say your questions out loud so that we can answer them later on. So if someone can try sending a question, that would be great, just for a trial. You can also choose to send it anonymously or not. And can someone try to do that so that I can check if it's working or not? Okay, perfect. So I will say your questions out loud after Ada presents her presentation. So this is what we're going to use. And since we're very little, then we could have maybe a discussion, open forum right after the Q&A session as well. So we are also going to record the session and upload it later on YouTube and on Facebook so that you could look back if you missed anything. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Ada start with her presentation.
Okay, so just I'll preface this by saying it might not quite be 30 minutes since STP is only a minor program, but of course, you guys are free to ask whatever questions you have if I haven't covered anything by the end. But yeah, so welcome to my presentation about STP minor program, which is a program in KAIST that actually not many people hear about, especially before coming to KAIST. And I think I didn't know that it was here either. So STP stands for Science and Technology Policy, as you can see. And for undergrads, it's a minor program, and I'll explain to you what that is. Oh, how do I change the slide? Okay, there we go. So today we will cover why you might want to study STP, what we study, and then my key advice as an old student. I'm nearly finishing my undergrad at KAIST now, so you can also just ask me random questions about KAIST life too if you want to. Okay, so firstly, why might you be interested? What is in it? Like why it's worth doing? So I don't know if you've ever considered policy making or the ideas of what science policy might be, but basically it is the link between science and society. That's how I kind of regard it, like all of the things that transfer kind of scientific advancements or scientific theory into actual like usable applications or like policies that affect people or even that affect how research is funded, things like that. And also things like how COVID vaccines are distributed or things like that. So if you've ever wondered anything like this, for example, why are there fewer women in science, or who should make decisions about policies related to science? Should it be scientists or should it be politicians? Or how does technology affect our future? Or how do we communicate science effectively? or if you're worried about climate change or sustainability, then all of this is covered within STP. So yeah, I think I had a lot of questions like this, and I discovered STP as a department and discovered that there were classes that covered these things. And I was like, wow, it's time to find this is my minor. In fact, I wish it was a major secretly, but it's a minor. Okay. So if you want to express your views and think critically about the science you're doing and learn about the context of science and technology in society, then maybe you should consider STP minor as something you want to do. There's a lot of thinking in philosophical ways, or thinking about kind of the implications of certain science that you're doing, and writing about outcomes of different policies, or researching history. So if you're interested in any of these things, STP is the perfect center point of that. And it's something kind of unique in KAIST compared to all of the other departments, which are obviously very focused on like engineering or math or something like that. So that's, I think, maybe why you might want to consider STP. And that's why I found that I liked it, because it was a place where I could think more creatively, express my own thoughts, and also learn about things that I thought were important in society. Okay, so obviously a very important thing about the minor program is what we actually study. So STP itself is a pretty small department. There's these are the full-time professors. As you can see, there's a lot of different areas of research that each of them focus on. But it includes things like aging and disability policy, like how old people are treated in society, or technology that can make their lives better. It includes things like philosophy of science, or AI policy, like how should we regulate and control AI for, future development, and like keeping the human race safe from AI, maybe. Also, it covers things like economic policies and how that relates to science, and also the environment and climate change. Things like the Anthropocene. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like the idea that right now the world is being most influenced by the things that humans are doing, and in relation to like climate change and sustainability, which is a very interesting topic to research. And then some people are also focusing on like sustainable development and policies like international cooperation. So yeah, this is what the professors focus on, and often they open classes that are related to their own areas of research, basically. Yeah. So the minor program itself, like I think most minor programs in KAIST, requires a minimum of 18 credits. And the only required course out of that is either STP 230 or STP 310. And 230 is Science and Technology Policy, like literally it's the name of the minor. So it's the most basic, the most fundamental course. And that's also the one that's opened most often. So yeah, I took that course and had a good time. Basically, we discussed a lot of different issues each week. Like we would focus on a different kind of topic, which really helped me to like find which areas I was interested in as well. So normally each semester, SCP, because it's a pretty small department, opens only about 2 or 3 courses in English, which some people find a bit of a challenge in terms of being able to take enough classes to make up the minor. Obviously, we all know the difficulties of like having a clashing timetable with 2 classes you want to take at the same time. And in some cases, that was a bit of a problem for me too. But I think over your whole time at KAIST, it's definitely not too difficult to take enough classes for STP. And that's mainly helped by the fact that also some humanities classes can count towards STP minor. You can find the full list on the STP website, which I'll show you the link to later, or on the KAIST bulletin. I think there is the official list of classes, but that includes some things like environmentalism, which is a humanities course, and philosophy of science is also officially a humanities course, but it's actually taught by an STP professor, Grant Fisher, who's a really cool guy. And some other interesting courses I took from STP were some of the kind of special lectures ones, which are opened not so regularly, including one that focused on AI and society, and one that focused on like public policies, kind of things that policies that involve the public is obviously seems true to its name. And another interesting class was humans, machines, and society. Obviously, since it's a small department, the course offering changes quite a lot between each semester. It depends kind of which professors are available and what they want to teach. But actually, I think that's what makes STP more interesting as well, because you get to kind of take classes with professors who are really interested in their course topic, and they've opened that class because they want to teach it. You know, generally classes in STP are only about maybe 5 to 10 students, which is another thing that makes it quite nice, because it means we can have discussions in class and yeah, more time to think about the things that we're learning individually. Yeah, and I just wanted to show you guys, not everything in STP is just like lectures, because obviously you cannot learn everything just by, you know, sitting there and thinking about, you know, different topics. You should experience things. So the top right, top left photo is a trip that we went on for one of my classes to KOICA, which is Korea's like international development kind of agency, which was very interesting with our with one class in STP. And I've also given presentations myself from certain projects, and in classes sometimes like speakers from places like the UNDP or the World Bank have come and spoken to the class as well, which is interesting. Yeah. But I just wanted to show you guys that I think one reason that I like SCP so much is also because it's kind of very different to the normal academic environment at KAIST. We work in groups a lot and have projects and discuss a lot, and it's very fun. Okay, we've already reached the section of my advice. And am I a jaded senior? I wrote that last night, quite late at night, so perhaps. But my main advice in relation to SCP is that, one, gives you perspective on your major. Like I think at KAIST it can be very easy to become like super focused on just, you know, studying for exams and learning your major courses, which obviously is very important. But I think learning the context and applications of your major within society is actually very important, even as scientists, to learn. So you gain perspective by doing STP. Secondly, as I have mentioned, it's a great escape from the math in majors. And I also really appreciated STP classes as a chance not to always have to get the answer right, you know, but like just think about my opinion or like explain like my arguments, or like research projects just in things that I was interested in. I definitely appreciated it as an escape from my major, which is physics. And lastly, taking STP minor is an opportunity to discover something that you might not know that you actually really enjoy. I think for me, when I came to KAIST, I was very set on the idea that I was going to be a research scientist and I wanted to do physics. And clearly I was crazy because who wants to do physics, man? Well, maybe some of the people in the next session, but basically I discovered through taking STP minor that actually it's what I want to do in the future. And now I'm planning to carry on and do a master's in something similar to STP. And yeah, so I'm very happy that I chose to do this minor. However, saying that, you don't have to take STP with any intention of like doing it in the future. I think even just taking it to gain perspective on your own major and like maybe what you want to do in science in the future is super, super valuable. Like, because of like the perspective that you gain. So yeah, I think although it's been kind of an opportunity for me to find something new that I really like, at the same time, I would super encourage anyone who's just a little bit interested to take it as a minor, because obviously it's only, you know, like 6 classes over your time at KAIST, and all of them are very interesting. Yeah. So in fact, I don't know if I went too quickly, but we've reached the end of my presentation. And obviously, feel free to ask questions now, and then you can also contact me later if you have any other questions about it or just questions about KAIST. Yeah, but if anyone has questions now, I'll be happy to answer.
And thank you so much, Ada. So there is one question. So they asked, do the ideas developed in the STP department materialize and reflected in real policies concerning either KAIST or South Korea in general?
So within the minor program, I guess we're mainly learning about how to form policies and, you know, like the history of policy and how to think about these things. I think within the minor program itself, it's hard to, you know, make a tangible impact on actual policy. However, obviously, if you stay in this field, then yes, for sure, like your work can have a future on your work can have an impact on future policy. And I think some of the professors here have been involved in like Ministry of Science policies in Korea, as far as I know. Yeah, I guess taking the minor is a way to start learning about how that process happens. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question is it possible to collaborate with professors to do research?
Right. This is something I meant to talk about but forgot. So I've been working as kind of a research assistant in an STP lab for about a year now, or since, yeah, nearly a year, since last summer. Basically, one of the professors who I had taken classes from actually asked me if I would be interested in like working with him. But yeah, you can contact the professors and ask them to, you know, do some work with them. I think it's definitely an invaluable experience to do that as well as taking classes if you're interested. But you don't have to, but there are opportunities to do so for sure. Yeah. And I was also paid as research assistant in that lab, which was nice.
Oh, that's cool. So the next question is, do the subjects and policies studied on STP are more focused on Korea itself, or they compromise other countries as well?
In fact, I would say most of the things that we've discussed in the classes I've taken have been very internationally focused. So STP does open some classes in Korean as well, which are taught by a visiting professor who is, I think, has a position possibly in government in Korea, and so his classes are very focused on Korea. But generally, the standard classes in STP are quite internationally focused. Yeah, talking about more kind of broad themes of policy, like how we should manage AI or something like that, rather than like very specific country policies. Yeah.
So the next question is, how does research work actually work in the SCP department?
So in my experience, like what I did as a research assistant was I have been kind of, so what I've been working on is to do with international cooperation and international development, and like aid between donor countries and recipient countries in terms of like sustainable development. So what I did was like gathering data on kind of, for example, different donor countries' policies and things like that, and also coming up with ideas about how to categorize those or like what implications that has. And in my experience, like I met with the professor, like, well, variable intervals, but normally around like once a month or once every few weeks, to kind of check in about what I was working on. I think it kind of depends on the professor that you want to work with, and generally sometimes they can suggest you a topic that you might want to research, or you can go to them with your own idea of what you're interested in, and then they can help you with that. I hope that answers the question, but feel free to ask more if there's more details necessary.
Yes. So since we're very little, you can actually speak and unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Yeah, feel free to just discuss.
You're free to just do that, but I will continue to read out what's on the slide for now. So, okay, the next question is, what internship opportunities are available in STP?
So it has been a bit of a challenge. There are some internship opportunities available in Korea even, but often they are for master's students or things like that. So for example, I have seen internships at the UNDP, which is the UN Development project, or there's various other institutes about like sustainable development or green growth, and there's the Korean Development Agency. Obviously, it depends if you want to, like, kind of what sort of area you want to work in the future. SDP is applicable not only to like development policy or international relations, things like that, but also to things that are more closely associated with tech, and a lot of companies might actually have kind of positions for kind of policymakers related to their own tech. So yeah, I think I have been focused on trying to find internships that are kind of related to international development and things like that. Admittedly, they are quite competitive and hard to get, but if you're motivated to do that, then I think definitely there's some options for internships. Aside from that, obviously, like just working with professors and getting academic research experience is very useful as well. Yeah.
So is there anyone else who has questions? Feel free to speak up. It's nice to hear your voices as well. If you're still thinking of questions, there are actually 2 comments that were written in Slido. They said that it is very interesting to find out about this minor. Yeah, admittedly, I don't hear about it.
Yeah, it's because it's a pretty small department and it's just a minor. I think so many people don't know about it. But I'm glad that KAIST actually does offer this. I think it's definitely important that at least some people from KAIST gain an awareness about this kind of issue or topic as well. Yeah.
Another person said that he or she took a history of science class by Professor Bong-Soon Park, and he or she said it was great.
Oh, really? I actually haven't taken that class, but I also think it sounds very interesting. I'm currently taking Philosophy of Science by Grant Fisher, which is, I won't say it's an easy class. It's definitely kind of challenging to think philosophically about science, let's say, but I think it's also one of the most interesting classes I've ever taken at KAIST, because he really encourages us to like form our own opinions about you know, how we think science is formed and all the implications it has, and you know, like whether people are biased in developing science or scientific theories and things like that. So it's a really good class, yeah.
So there's a question that is directed to Ada. So how are you planning to integrate physics and STP?
That is an interesting question, because I am not. Basically, I think the fact that I've studied physics gives me kind of a good background on which to kind of base my understanding of science. However, I have discovered that I don't like physics anymore. And so I am planning to work entirely within you know, like SDP development or even international development policy, things like that, rather than trying to mesh them together too hard. I mean, obviously, I would be open in the future to maybe working as some kind of policymaker related to science, even related to physics. But I myself, I'm not going to be a physicist. That is what I have discovered from taking STP. I like it way more than I ever liked physics. Yeah.
So Are there any more questions? Please speak up. Yeah, if you ever have questions, we would appreciate that. Or if you have any comments you want to say, go ahead. Feel free. It's like an open forum now. You can just talk.
Yeah, and feel free to contact me later as well if you think of anything later.
Who here is already decided that they want to minor in STP? Is there anyone here? Or are you scouting or checking out?
I think also, like, for all of you guys, like, even if you don't decide to minor in STP eventually, it's even interesting just to take 1 or 2 classes. I think out of all the classes available at KAIST, I find them the most interesting. So definitely worth even taking just a couple.
I actually have a question. How are you guys graded? Do you write papers? Is it group projects?
I should have covered this too, I guess. Normally, well, it varies a lot between classes, and it depends on, you know, like what the professor likes. I think generally there are final papers or projects that you do, normally individual projects, like, since there aren't that many people in the class, like each person can work on their own kind of research project. Or like, I think in the STP course itself, like the one that's mandatory, we had exams, but like written exams about the concepts that we learned about. And in philosophy of science, for example, like we had a very interesting midterm assignment, which was to write like kind of the script of a conversation between 2 philosophers that we learned about, and like explain their ideas through a conversation with each other, which was really fun to write. And like we have a final paper at the end. But yeah, I think most classes have kind of, obviously they're writing based, but some have research projects where you can choose your own interest as well. Yeah.
So what exactly was it that made you choose STP minor instead of physics now, I mean, as an interest?
As my like future interest, you mean? I guess, well, mainly the fact that I discovered that I much prefer thinking about the implications of science, or thinking about the how the science has been formed, rather than doing the math myself. I can let other people do the math, and then I can apply their theories to reality, I guess. I prefer, you know, thinking about how that science affects the public, rather than doing it myself. Yeah. Which is not to say that doing physics or any other major is not great, but for me, I guess I wanted to work in something that felt more kind of people-centered, and like where I could potentially have an impact on policies, or like development of policies, and affect people's lives in the future. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So perhaps you might get more interested in the larger picture of science and see it in a context rather than.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I was
Definitely.
actually also interested in this, but I am already planning to do CS and math, so I guess. But the history of science course was pretty good.
I think, yeah, even even if you don't have time or like credits to take a full minor, I think it's still definitely worth taking a few classes. And yeah, gives perspective.
Just a quick question. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. I was just wondering what is the class size of the lectures that you take, and were you able to have intimate connections with your professors?
So normally, since obviously STP is really small and not many people know about it, although hopefully that can change, I think the class size is normally only on average about 10 people. Sometimes sometimes slightly more or even slightly less. Like I think the smallest class I've had was about 7 or 8 people, which basically means that we can discuss a lot between ourselves. You become quite close to the people you're taking class with, and discussion is encouraged a lot in STP classes. And also it means that it's very kind of easy and comfortable to talk directly to the professor a lot. And if you have questions, it's like people ask questions in class a lot. And I think all the professors are very welcoming to, like, if you want to meet them outside class to discuss even just something else that you're interested in, then they're very open to that. So yeah, I think it's a good department in terms of like getting to know professors and gaining guidance from them. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So there was a question in the Slido. I actually wasn't aware of this as well, but someone asked, was the economics program discontinued? Because was there an economics program at KAIST? I didn't know.
Within STP, I'm not entirely sure. There is there's a couple of professors who like focus on economic like policies in relation to the environment or in relation to international politics. Recently, there haven't been many economics focused classes opened within STP. I don't know about a specific program either. So yeah, I'm not sure. Also, I think economics is also covered quite a lot within BTM, Business Technology Management. So if you're very interested in economics, then consider BTM as well. But it's part of STP for sure, but I don't think there's a specifically separate kind of program.
Someone brought it up, and apparently there is.
Oh, well, this is the first.
Yeah, it's the first.
I see. I also, I think, in terms of the comparison between STP and BTM, BTM obviously is very business focused, right? It's about, you know, building a bit. I don't really know. I haven't taken BTM courses either, but it's economics and business focused, whereas STP is more about focusing on policy making and like how science affects society, and rather than like direct applications to business. Yeah.
For the one who answered that question, who asked that question, I will talk to the BTM presenter and ask him about it, and you could attend the BTM presentation so you can learn more about it as well. Thank you for the question. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to speak up. We have about like we can take more 10 more. We can take 10 more minutes. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for attending.
I'm glad that there are some people who are interested in STP. I hope you guys have a fun time in classes in the future, maybe.
Are there any
I'll
more
put-
questions? I don't
It's fine if not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to post this anyways on our YouTube and Facebook. So you can always check it out there if you miss anything or if you just like to go back and check. And we're also planning to share the presentations after the event. So you could also refer to that. If there are no more questions, I'll give you guys 1 minute to think about it. And if there are no questions in 1 minute, we can close the session. I think there are no more questions.
Mhm.
So thank you guys for attending. I hope this helped you a lot in learning more about STP and maybe about the program. So I hope you guys
Yeah.
enjoyed, and thank you again, Ada, for presenting STP. Lisa truly appreciates it, and all the participants for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been telling all my friends for years to come to STP, but it's good that there's now an opportunity to promote it better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will close the session. I'll stop the recording now.